Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. As Nottingham Forest went into today's game against West Ham on the back of a great week, a Europa League draw, an England call for Elliot Anderson, and a new contract for Callum Hudson-Odoi. They've somehow ended it, losing 3-0 at home to a West Ham team in crisis until today, with Nuno now right in the spotlight again when it comes to keeping his job. So joining me to discuss all that, first of all, is Dillon Mapletoft. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. Flat after the game, obviously, but otherwise fine.
Yes. Oh man, I'm zoomed in, by the way, to people because my room my background is an absolute hellscape. So that's why my face is like massive for this. Chief in Chicago, how are you?
I'm angry. Actually, I'm angry at this. Not even a disappointment. It's anger at that at Nuno, at the team, at everybody. So I'm unwell, to say the least.
Oh man, it was dire. It was unbelievably bad today. We'll get into it. Chris, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm fuming at the performance and obviously the result as well. I'm sure later on there'll be positives talking about the Europa League draw and stuff, but before that, we should probably hammer some home truths to some of the players and even some of the management today.
Yeah. All right, kick us off then, Chris. What general thoughts, and then we'll branch out from there.
Well, first off, Danscape mentioned to me earlier when I was texting him, he said, look, maybe that should have ended up in 0-0 and Bowen has one moment of quality and then we kind of fall apart at the end. And I think he's probably right. But I think in general, forgetting that a 0-0 isn't good enough against West Ham at home. The expectations are bigger on this team now anyway, and we ended up losing 3-0 and did end up falling apart at the end. So for me, just general thoughts on the game. We didn't look like we were going to score all day. We did have a couple of bright moments. Wood couldn't finish his dinner at times, but ultimately in possession, we just weren't creative enough. I am absolutely fuming at some of the performances. I will call players out for being great, like 2 weeks ago when I did against Brentford. So I'm going to do the same again today. Morgan Gibbs-White was awful today. Could have been hooked at halftime, and I would have been fine with that. Aina, really poor. Every single cross he put in the box seemed to be not beat the first man, or seemed to be laboured and slow. Defensively, he wasn't great first half either. Nuno, timing of substitutes, not great at all. To be honest, Douglas Luiz, maybe he wasn't ready for the game, but he wasn't put on the pitch at all. And I thought maybe that could have changed the game a bit and maybe given us that little extra impotence going forward. In general, look, I'm really angry, and I've tried to calm down over the last 2 hours about it, but I can't. I'm going to be happy when we win, but when we lose 3-0 at home to a West Ham team who've been well off form with their manager under massive pressure. And by the way, West Ham first half didn't play well today. They were poor. There were loose balls all over the place. They were there for the taking, and we didn't go with them. And I'm really, really pissed off. Excuse the language, but I'm not happy.
Yeah, I'm going into it, I was very confident we'd win. I think everyone was, and West Ham fans thought we'd lose. And I know there's going to be people saying, well, this is Forest, this is what happens. But it doesn't matter what I say before a game. It doesn't matter. In a sense, it doesn't matter what any of us say because we can't affect the result. The players can. And to me, they were complacent. Their attitude to that game it's not, you don't start a game like a pre-season friendly, and it was played like a pre-season friendly. So I am annoyed because it wasn't good enough today. We'll get into the bigger stuff, but today certainly was absolute really poor. Certainly the last 30 minutes was really, really bad. Expand on your annoyance, Chief.
I mean, it was the whole team. I think, like Chris said, you could have pulled a handful of guys at halftime, and it just felt like the subs came late or not at all in some cases. Where it's like, what you've missed your moment. When the subs did come on, it's like McAtee on the right wing. Why not try him centrally when you're having a day like Gibbs-White is having? Just yank him. I thought the team looked flat. I would have loved to see, Yates and Douglas Luiz come in at some point. So at least you'd have a little bit of fight and energy, and maybe, you play Douglas Luiz a little bit further up, bring him on for Anderson. Not that Anderson was the worst, but it was just nobody was doing anything. And it almost felt, from the hockey perspective in me, sometimes when you're playing terribly, you just yank the goalie. And it's not even necessarily his fault, but you switch the goalie and you just try to send a message to everybody else on the bench that, hey, this isn't good enough. So I would have made subs early and just try to get some life into the team because they were so flat, careless with the ball. It was one of the worst games I think we've seen from them in the Prem, where there were times when they first came up where they're completely overmatched. This was worse because this is a team that you should hammer, and no pun intended, but this is a team, you should take care of business, go in an international break, and they look completely disinterested. So it was as bad of a performance I think Forest has had in a long time.
Well, sometimes when you're playing badly in hockey, someone drops the gloves and starts a fight.
Or that, do that. Takes, pick up a card, get the crowd going, do something. It was, no one seemed like they were ready to take that game by the scruff of the neck and turn it around. And, we've seen, Gibbs White do that in the past. He was nowhere to be found today. It just felt like no one had any life. And it was like, if you're doing match ratings, it's like, who's better than a 4 out of 10? Like nobody.
Yeah, sales was good.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, we've lost 3-0 at home, and our keepers had a really good game, which probably says a lot. I mean, was it that bad, Dillon? Are you going to tell us it wasn't, or are you on the same page?
I mean, I think I agree with everything that's already been said. I mean, I think it is a valid point that there's a world where we play equally as poorly and it ends 0-0. I think and it wasn't until the last sort of 20 minutes that we really crumbled, but I think it's true that it was a painful watch, for most of the game. We didn't look at it. I agree with what's been said about Gibbs White. I mean, but I agree with what's been said about everyone, really. I mean, I sort of couldn't believe how poor, some of our kind of, even someone like Anderson, who is usually an 8 out of 10, was pretty poor today. And yeah, it did feel kind of like a preseason game. It was, a few sort of nearly moments, but I mean, it's concerning how we fell off in that last 15 minutes and everyone really seemed to down tools. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of how we used to turn teams over last season, to be honest, with this kind of counter-attack where we'd sort of soak up a lot of pressure and then, really sort of cut loose and use the outlet of someone really pacey like Elanga. I mean, they brought Somerville on today who had so much pace and we couldn't handle him. But yeah, it's up there with as frustrated as I've been as a fan since we've been in the Premier League, because I agree, on paper, I'd take one of their players maybe. I'd take Bowen. There's, Paqueta did all right today, but I think we've got better than him in midfield. We ought to be doing a lot better than losing 3-0 to West Ham at home.
I thought, from a West Ham point of view, they were organised. They came with a game plan. Bowen's a really good player. I thought Paqueta had a good game. He bought so many fouls, but in general, his play was good. And I thought Fernandez added something in midfield. But other than that, they're a poor team, and they cannoned the ball into touch so many times in the first half. And this is a Forest thing, Chris. I don't know. We sometimes get dragged down to levels. I think that's one thing. And another thing is, I was keep hoping we've shaken this off. But 3 goals in 7 minutes, these collapses that we have in us, stay in the game and you can nick a point. I mean, at worst, it should have been a 0-0. But is it the scale of how bad it was when we're playing West Ham at the perfect time? I mean, later in the season, West Ham might be in a different place, but we've been handed 3 fixtures against teams that really advantage us in the circumstances, and we've got 4 points. So we were great against Brentford, we were decent against Palace, but we were really poor today. And is it the scale of the last 30 minutes that is it? How worrying is it to you, or do you brush it off?
I'm not fully worried hitting the panic button or anything just yet. I mean, Newcastle are on 2 points as it stands. City are on 3 and we're on 4. So it's the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? This will be, we will bin this hopefully and forget about this in the future. And then when we get to the back end of the season, we'll look back and probably go, oh yeah, that was one of those moments you kind of have to bin. You look at Spurs last season. They hammered Man United 3-0 at Old Trafford. And then they went on to finish 17th. You know what I mean? Things change fast, and this international break will be good for us. It'll settle us down quite a bit, because we'll be able to just take stock and go away. And obviously we've Arsenal away next, which is going to be a really difficult game. But I think it's a good moment for a break for us. It's just the inconsistency that worries me. That's the only thing. Not necessarily, obviously the result worries me and annoys me, but it's the inconsistency. You come out and you play like you did in the first half against Brentford. You then take your foot off the gas second half, but you ease the game out and only concede a penalty. You go away to Palace. First half, that last bit of the first half, not great. And then the second half, we come out and play really well. And then today, you know, all the talk this week was about how Forest were going to win. You know, I have a last man standing a group at work, and everyone's picking Forest. I didn't, but everyone was picking Forest. And I still thought we'd win, but like I didn't think it was going to be comfortable. And the fans are up for it. They're in the stadium. And then all of a sudden, you know, as soon as you get to 60, 70 minutes and it's 0-0, you know in the back of your mind, oh, this away team are going to build confidence towards the back end of the game because they're feeling like they're still in the game, and a draw is probably good for them, especially with the run they're on. So, yeah, I think the flurry of goals is frustrating, like you said as well. Like that did happen. I was at a Newcastle game last year away. We conceded 4 goals in like 15 minutes or something. So it does happen to us. But then on the flip side, we played Aston Villa last year at some point, 1-0 down, came back strong the last 10 minutes, won it 2-1. So it's up and down, but that's the problem. It's up and down. I don't like the inconsistency in general. I wanted us to put this game to bed. I wanted us to at least get a draw and say, look, it was a bad performance. Let's just pack our bags for the international break and stay undefeated in these first 3 games where we're better than all of the teams, I would say, arguably better than all the teams we played so far. But it's the inconsistency that worries me, but I'm not pushing the panic button yet.
No, that was a frustration today watching the first half, and like we were in control and we were better than West Ham, but we didn't take any sort of advantage. I think my big worry, Chief, going into this was if we lose and we play badly, or even if we lose, it really puts Nuno in the spotlight, because then we've got an international break, and then we've got Arsenal, and then we've got Burnley and Sunderland either side of Betis, and there's an expectation from the owner that we will be winning those games. And now we're right here, and Nuno, rightly or wrongly, and I'll ask if you think rightly or wrongly, but he's back in the spotlight, isn't he now?
Oh, definitely. And when you saw Marinakis give his talk at the Europa League draw, I was like, all right, like maybe, you know, he's flying back to London, they'll smooth things out, finish up the window, add in, you know, another winger and a couple of fullbacks, and away we go. But a loss like this, and I do think a lot of it is on Nuno. I thought those substitutions made no sense. You know, you're playing Igor Jesus as a lone striker up top. That doesn't seem like that's been his forte so far. And it was just, you know, a result is a result. But even if they had gotten the 0-0, I would still be mad, because it's like the compete level and the focus. It just felt like they're already on vacation. Like if these guys are going out of town for international break, they're just like, they already packed their bags, and the game was like almost like an inconvenience to them. That's how it looked. The effort level it was lackadaisical, and it was, I don't know, it was very disappointing to see. And it felt like maybe the tide from all the drama off the field was turning after that Europa League draw. And it's like, all right, let's go out and, you know, pump West Ham, and then we'll be feeling good and riding high. And we got Betis coming up, and it'll be great. And then now it's the opposite. Now it's like, now what's that meeting going to look like with Marinakis and Edu? And it's like, hey, we just spent 150 million. You can't get these guys ready to go. You have these weird, you know, unusual subs. So I think it's going to be, the tone of that conversation is probably going to be a lot different than it would have if they had, you know, showed up and got a W today.
And if Nuno had kept his mouth shut in the press, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. We'd be looking back at this like Fulham at home last season where we lost 1-0 and we were rubbish. And Nuno was rubbish that day. He played a really random 4-4-2 with no wingers, but no one was about sacking him. So, yeah, he's talked himself into this position and put himself under a lot of pressure. I mean, do any of you think Nuno should go? I don't at all, to be honest. I think that's way too premature. When you look at where he's taken us from and to, we'll get into his management today, but I think it would be really premature to pull the trigger now. But I saw a comment in the chat, Dillon saying, you know, oh, it's the international break. It's a time when clubs do change managers. And, you know, Marinakis it's his club, and he can turn around and say, well, I've given you 150 million quid and look how you've used it today. So, yeah, do you fear Nuno will go, or do you even want Nuno to go? Oh, hang on, I have to unmute you, Dillon, because I muted you because you had an echo. You're back.
I definitely don't want him to go. I mean, I do think that I don't think he's behaved well. I think there's questions to me. Like I would like to know, you know, we probably will never know the answer, but I'd like to know why he said what he said in the way he said it. I think he knew what he was doing. And, you know, you're right. It feels like he's put himself under a lot of pressure. But there are question marks, you know, there are going to be question marks after a performance like that, after, you know, this big conversation that's apparently needs to happen hasn't happened yet. And it's disappointing. I mean, I feel frustrated with him because I think, like, he has really been backed. You know, there's rumours maybe that he didn't want Douglas Luiz. I mean, maybe. I mean, I sort of think if that's the case, why? But even so, there are a lot worse problems that you can have as a manager in the Premier League of like getting a potentially great player that you don't ideally want, you know. So I feel like there are managers of teams like West Ham, like Fulham, whatever, that will be looking on enviously at the business we've been able to do. So it's not a great situation. It feels like he's brought pressure on himself. I do fear for him, but I'm still hopeful. That, you know, Marinakis won't sack him yet, and that he'll get the chance over these next few games to turn it around. But yeah, it is a real shame, because had he not said anything, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Had we put in a performance today, we probably would be saying there's a bit of a full stop on it, and all that noise can quiet down, because during the week it seemed like we were moving to a better place, right? And sadly that those questions are going to be asked even more now.
Yeah, it's a question of how knee-jerk it would be, I guess, if a change were to be made. Right, I'll throw it to Chris and Chief in 1 second. So wait with eager anticipation, everyone, as I do an advert for the Trent Navigation. You can wait 2 weeks, and then we can watch the Arsenal game at the Nav. But also, there are some live events coming up, music-wise. In the meantime, why isn't that video playing? There it is, just really slow, helpful. The 5th of September, the Cure Heads, and then the 11th of October, Legends of Manchester. So you get your tickets from fatsoma.com. And like I say, you can enjoy the next, I think it might be the next, all our games basically on TV. Watch them all at the Nav, probably. And I'll just say when you can't watch it on TV. Chris, where are you at on Nuno? I can't believe we're having this conversation in many ways, because things felt so good a couple of days ago. But where are you at, Chris?
Obviously, I want Nuno to stay. I mean, he got us to the first European competition in 30 years. You know what I mean? Like he was brilliant last year with a threadbare squad, but a good 11, which he made good, by the way. He's a good coach. So obviously, I want Nuno to stay. And a game like today isn't going to make me think otherwise. You know what I mean? I mean, the back end of last season, we had a big chance of making Champions League because of him, but he only won like 2 in 8 games. So that was a really poor showing then. And I still wanted Nuno to stay, give him the summer, give him some backing with the squad and see what happens. We've won one, lost one, drawn one. They're the facts. So I'm not going to call for Nuno's head when we've been inconsistent, but won a game, drawn a game, and lost a game. And it was a bad loss today. But I think the truth of the matter is like Dillon said, he brought the pressure on himself. He's the one that he said something in the press conference before the Brentford game. It wasn't just that press conference pre-Palace. It was before the Brentford game. And you'd hope it would all have been ironed out by now. And luckily, Nuno has ironed it out a bit in the press, and so was Marinakis when he was chatting to the press there the other day. But my thing is simple. Any manager is going to come under pressure if a string of results goes bad. Any manager at any stage. It doesn't matter who they are. Ranieri came under pressure after he won the league with Leicester a few months in and got sacked. So any manager is going to come under pressure. And I think we'll see a lot more, and we'll know a lot more at the next international break. I think they'll keep Nuno. We'll see what happens in the next run of results in the first couple of Europa League games. We play Burnley and Sunderland after we play Arsenal, and we'll know a lot more about this team and their character then. Burnley and Sunderland have pulled up a good couple of results recently as well, and Arsenal are going to be really tough away. And then we've Betis away in a couple of other games, and then the other international break. And we get to that, if he's running out of steam and the results aren't going well, well, I mean, any manager has to be sacked at that point, but now I'd keep him.
The chat's typically divided on this, calling us happy clapping idiots or overreacting idiots. So we're just idiots. Chief, what degree of an idiot are you? What do you think?
Oh, the biggest one in this stream for sure. I love Nuno, and I didn't even really mind kind of the tantrum he threw in the media, because if you have to get the owner's attention somehow, and there's this big divide, and Edu seems like the guy who's rocking the boat of a team that just qualified for Europe. It's like, I feel like Nuno should have seniority to a degree where it's like, hey, like this is, I'm telling you what I need. And there's this disconnect and this agent, and it just seems like a big mess that is manufactured. It was like everything was going great until you guys started, trying to do a little bit too much. So I don't know. I hope Nuno and they figure it out, but he was not good today, and and the team wasn't ready to go. So ultimately, like, that's on him. And if you have a string of performances like this, then it makes me think that there is a culture problem and you need a new voice. But I'm nowhere near that point. So I hope Nuno's here for 5 years. Like, I hope that's how well things go here, because I think he's seems like a good guy and a good manager. I'd like to have him here.
Let's talk more about the subs then, the use of the bench. That's what Nuno's getting the flack for. I mean, West Ham, they lined up with a flat back four, which they haven't done at all, Chris. I don't know if that surprised Nuno, but is it the way he reacted to it? What I suppose he brought McAtee on. I saw Dan in the comments saying he didn't think McAtee did a lot. I thought McAtee was decent when he came on personally, and he lifted us more than Undoy, who I was underwhelmed with, bar a couple of decent moments in the first half. But what if we're being critical of Nuno's subs, then why are we being critical, Chris? What would you have liked to have seen?
Well, first of all, to your first comment about, West Ham, the way they set up, we actually defensively did pretty well first half. Like West Ham had quite a few set pieces. We defended them really well. Defensively, we were sound. The issue was going forward. And now that leads to the question about subs is nothing was working going forward. We were constantly throwing low crosses into the box and West Ham were eating them up all day long. Our set pieces, the balls in weren't terrible from Anderson, but West Ham were just chewing them up, spitting them out. We had a couple of balls into the channels for Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi, but they didn't work either. So our problem today was offensively. I know we fell apart at the end, but defensively, we were really good that first half. Offensively, we were really, really poor. So what do? You throw McAtee on for Ndoye and stick him on the wing? I don't think so. I think that's when you have to ring in the changes. Last week, he rung in the changes. He had McAtee, Killamundo, Jesus, and Hutchinson all came on at one point or another. I know Hutchinson was a late sub in the game last week, but it made a difference. It made a big difference. Going forward, we had that energy. And I know Hutchinson missed a couple of chances last week, but whatever. My point is, he should have made 3 or 4 big changes sooner, in my opinion, and particularly going forward. That was where the problem was. We couldn't break them down. And I think he's got to not be afraid to hook Gibbs White at halftime if he's not playing well, or even, sort of 5-10 minutes into the second half, give him that chance. I know Gibbs White improved as the other subs came on later on, but he's got to not be afraid to make those decisions. So for me, make 2, 3, 4. You have the squad now. There's no excuses. Maybe bring Luiz on, see what he can do. If you want to win the game rather than eke out a 0-0, which it looked like we did want to win the game, right? You've got to make those changes sooner. You've got to maybe be more proactive. There's loads of attacking options on the bench, and I just felt he held back for far too long. And then when he did make the changes, he made the wrong choices. So that's my opinion. He should have made 3 or 4 subs at once and gone, let's change this game.
Is he just too stubborn, Dillon? Is that the thing? When you look at, Gibbs White's probably the one. Quite a lot of players are 90-minute men, like Bruno Fernandes and people like that. But when Morgan's having, to me, his worst game for a long time, and also when Morgan's bad, we're bad as an attacking force. So if you can hook him, or do you leave him on and do something different? I suppose we can talk about whether you hook Sangare and drop Morgan back, but is Nuno just too stubborn around some players?
Well, yeah, I think I would agree with Chris that I'd really like him to not be afraid to hook even Gibbs White. Obviously there's been this big saga with Gibbs White. We're all grateful that he stayed. Obviously, I wanted him to stay the same as everyone else, but he had a shocker today, and I actually thought McAtee looked bright for about 10 minutes when he came on, and then he faded like everyone else. But it would have been probably better to see him playing centrally rather than coming on for Ndoye. And yeah, it was just very it was just quite slow. He's often very slow. When McAtee came on 56 minutes or so in, I actually wasn't thinking so much about who he was coming on for at the time. I was just like, okay, well, at least he's made a change before 60, 70, 80 minutes. But, I would agree that kind of I would have liked to have seen a bit like with, Palace, that we bring on, we make several changes, because we had, one shot, no shots in that first half. There was no kind of penetration at all, really. And to go and really go for the game, especially when it became a lot more open in the second half, we needed more. But yeah, if I was to dig out one player, which I am going to, because whatever, it probably would be Sangare, to be honest, for me, that I would have liked to see him hooked for Luiz, or even for Yates. I think he had a role in certainly the first two of their goals. I think there was a warning sign before then where he kind of gave it away on the edge of our box. And, you know, I understand that he gives us some good things too. I'm willing him to succeed like everyone, but I think he was poor today and he couldn't handle kind of the pace of Somerville when he came on. And yeah, I guess he's someone we'll inevitably get on to discussing. But for me, he's not the answer in that position.
Well, pretty much everyone was poor, as like we said. I would say Nico was decent, because I try and look at everyone. Like, I thought Nico was decent. Hudson-Odoi. I thought Anderson was decent as well, but decent, like 6, 7 out of 10. Hudson-Odoi was like a 6.
Williams was okay.
Yeah.
I thought he had a few good defensive contributions, I think.
Yeah, Nico had a tough task against Jarrod Bowen, and I thought he if you take the result out of it and, you know, then try and view it dispassionately, I thought Nico was pretty good. I mean, I suppose, Chief, my thing about Sangare was he was all right for an hour, but do we need a defensive midfielder as much as anything? Should we be more proactive? Because when Jesus came on, I thought and hoped he was taking Sangare off to drop Morgan back and trying to get a bit more out of him if he's not going to take Morgan off. Is that the thing, that chase the win more than anything?
Yeah, and it's not like you needed them today. You didn't need a defensive midfielder today. They had nothing really going forward until towards the end when Somerville came on, and you could almost smell that goal coming. So yeah, I would have liked to see them go out and try to win that game and be more offensive. And if you are bringing McAtee in, to me, this was a moment where it's like, if we're ever going to see McAtee play centrally, this would have been the day, because Morgan was awful. So either you drop him back and he can, help with the build up, or you just hook Morgan and be like, hey, McAtee, it's like, we paid a lot of money for you. You're, under 21s and all that. Let's see what you have. And then, you sign, everyone was so happy about Calamundo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's like, he's not really being used the way that we thought. So it's like, if you're looking for something different, play him up top, bring him on for Wood, who was kind of a passenger today too. And just, try a different sort of attack. Let him get on somebody, on somebody's shoulder and try to go for it. So it's just, the subs just didn't make any sense in terms of what they actually were, and then the timing of them too. So I think there was a lot left to be desired from Nuno today.
Yeah, I think so. Let's go through some incidents in the game, then. We'll try and do it chronologically, and then we'll just go through the goals. Should we have had a penalty, Chris? So I was watching in the family stand, absolutely miles away from it, when Hudson-Odoi went down under challenge from Wan-Bissaka, I think. Was that a penalty or not?
No, it wasn't. Was it Kyle Walker-Peters? Maybe I think it was.
Oh, okay, it probably was. I don't know.
Yeah, no, no. I think it was Walker-Peters. Look, I saw the replay. I think he got some of the ball there. There wasn't major protestations from us either, if that is a word. But like, I don't think it was a penalty. I think it was a reasonably good challenge. Well, it wasn't a penalty. We'd have been lucky to get a penalty for that. Whereas the other one that we gave away was definitely a penalty. But no, not a penalty for me. The ref, at times, I felt some of the decisions were a bit off. Like, some of the moments of gameplay in the game, they seem to get free kicks over us. But maybe that's just because it's my feeling as a biased fan. But yeah, overall, he was okay. But there was some decisions I felt that were quite poor. But that one, no, that wasn't a penalty for me, no.
No, I mean, it was Craig Pawson, wasn't it? He gave a lot of the fouls that Ryan Yates wins. In fact, he gave out all those fouls. They didn't let anything go when we were actually in decent positions. He
was good in terms of cards as well. Sorry, that's one thing. I mean, I know we're talking about the ref here, but
he wasn't the reason we lost, was he? That's why.
No, he wasn't. And Gibbs White should have had a yellow early, and he didn't give it. And I was delighted with that. To be honest, he was quite lenient early on. So yeah, he was okay. But that wasn't a penalty. No.
No, God, there's sod all to talk about. I mean, Sells kept us in it, really. He made 3. There was a deflected shot that was a really good save, actually. And, without Sells, it's probably 4, 5, 6. So it was that bad. He was beaten in the 84th minute, Chief. Bowen's goal, good finish. Wasn't a great build-up to it, though, was it? We've got to be disappointed with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was reminiscent of the whole day, where it was just like a little bit sloppy with the ball, a little bit late on everything, and then, It never felt like Forest was going to score to me. They got that. I think their first shot was at Callum Hudson-Odoi at the 60th minute, which was a kind of a low percentage chance. And it was like, This just feels like a West Ham goal's coming, and Bowen does what he does, and he had a moment and he finished, and it was like, all right. I never thought that they were going to be able to nick one back. It was just like that was the game. So yeah, the whole thing was disappointing. I do think, Chris, to your point, that they were not getting the benefit of those 50-50 foul calls either. There were a couple where it's like, all right, they could have let it go and Forest was breaking, and then they, blow it dead, stop it, giving them a free kick. I remember seeing at one point the fouls were 8-1 called on Forest, and Forest had 57% of the ball. So it's like if you have the ball so much, it feels like the foul should at least be closer if it's just mathematically, like if you have the ball, you're not committing fouls. So I don't know. That didn't go our way, but that's not why they lost. They were low energy the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help you build any momentum in a game when you're conceding soft fouls all the time. But we can't pin it on the ref, certainly. Dillon, any complaints about the penalty? I've only seen one replay, but what was your view of it?
No, clear penalty. I mean, in terms of complaints, I guess it was just the way we just looked so lazy from their kickoff. I mean, Murillo took this kind of heavy touch, passes into Paqueta. Maybe it's a slightly lucky rebound that it bounces off him straight into Somerville. But, and then we just couldn't handle kind of Somerville's pace. But I guess that's kind of what I meant earlier in terms of, we had one or two of those games last season where we were digging in and playing counter-attack and relying on these kind of pacey outlets to kind of sucker punch other teams. And it felt sort of strange to just watch that be kind of done to us. I don't want to be too hard on Sangare because I really am willing him to do well, but I do think he was poor for both of those goals. I mean, that first one, Gibbs White and Anderson kind of get in each other's way, but then there's Sangare coming in and like a really like a solid kind of agile six you'd hope could get a foot in there. Somerville shrugs past him, and then for the second goal, I mean, he's going outside like you'd hope that he wouldn't concede a penalty, basically, and it's just clumsy, and I feel like there were moments where he came in and did okay, and he got the odd block in and he got the odd ball up, but it's just that kind of consistency. I worry about him playing in that role on his own, and I hope, maybe Luis isn't the answer, I don't know, but I remember him breaking up play a lot for Villa, and I don't know if he can be sort of less consistent than Sangare, let's say. Like, I don't know. It's a question. Like, do you stick or twist? But I'm not sure about him anyway, is what I would say.
I like this guy. I feel like I'm the only one who's ever bashing on Sangare. So now I have an ally here on the stream.
But he was bad today. I know I see AT say he's always the easy target, but he gave a penalty away, so we're going to talk about it. And it's not racist, Jesus. Someone in the chat saying that. I mean, come on. Look, he was bad today. Everyone was bad. Go on, Chris.
Just the possession football today, right? Because this sort of the reason I'm bringing this up is because actually I'm thinking about Sangare dribbling into trouble a couple of times, right? And there was moments where Sangare was really poor today, and early on in the game I actually thought he was okay compared to what Gibbs White was playing with and Aine as well. But we tried to play a bit of a possession style game today. We did the same early on against Palace last week. It just didn't really work. Like, I mean, our goal last week was a breakaway from Ndoye, giving a great ball through to Callum Wilson. Our third goal the week before was a lovely breakaway pass from Anderson and Wood breaking through. Like, I feel like we still play better on the break. And if we want to play this possession football where, Sangare picks up the ball like a quarterback and passes it around and gives White and Anderson interchange, then we've got to be better. Like, and if we're not going to be better, we need to go back to what we were good at, because we've all these players and all this talent and we're trying to break teams down. But I watched Aina, Sangare, Gibbs White, all these players push up into the midfield, and like 2 or 3 West Ham players just came in and nicked the ball off them. They broke from play from a couple of these times where the lads were on the ball and laboured in too long on the ball. You've got to be a quick passing team. We're not quite yet an Arsenal or Liverpool where we can spray the ball around and then we'll find that pocket and that space and break teams down. But like that's my biggest frustration with today is why are we playing a possession-based game if we can't play it? And I know we have to try things. I get it. But the Premier League's your bread and butter. And if it's not working, you've got to revert back. Just give them the possession for a little bit. They wouldn't do anything. I mean, first half when they had possession, they did nothing. So Yeah, I just wonder, I mean, we're going to see now against Arsenal, because we're not going to have the possession in that game. So we'll go back and we'll see how good we are against a really good team who will have possession. But like, if we can't break teams down with possession, then we've got to go back to basics. And I know we did it in the first half against Brentford, but second half against Brentford, we took our foot off the gas a little bit and played their game, and they won set pieces and they ended up getting a goal. So, I don't know. I just think we've got to go back to what we were good at until we can do better in possession.
Well, I suppose the frustration, Chief, is then if you're having a lot of the ball, you're not breaking a team down, you use the bench, don't you? And then you look at the other options.
Well, and it felt like it was possession for the sake of possession. It was never dangerous. It was just kind of recycle, pass it around, whip a ball in that they eat up, and then try it again. And it was lack of imagination. They just weren't crisp. I do think they have the players, especially against a team like West Ham, to have this possession game and break teams down. They just didn't have it today. So yeah, definitely go to the bench. And like, this was a perfect time to give guys more than 10, 15 minutes off the bench, because they needed a spark and they weren't being good. And going back to being the biggest idiot on this stream, is Ndoye, can you play this counterattacking style if you don't have that pace of Elanga? Because there's a couple times where it's like he was shoulder to shoulder with a guy, and in my head, I'm just like, Elanga would have dusted him. And we would have been able to manufacture something, because he's just, 10% faster. And I wonder if it's harder to play that way now without that raw pace. And that's really why Nuno was so upset when he didn't get Traore in, because if you want to at least just have that, like, hey, we are going to be counterattacking. His final third, I think everybody knows, is not the best, but he can threaten you with that speed and that strength and hold people off. I wonder if that's like an element that is missing still from this bench or this 11.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, we need to see more of Ndoye, and I need to see more of Hutchinson as well. See how quick he is, certainly. Quick word from Nottingham Window Company. Thanks ever for their support. If you're looking for new windows, new doors, do check them out. Link is in the description, and thanks for their sponsorship of these post-match shows, as ever, on a Saturday. Third goal, Chris. Murillo. I mean, he's had like Dillon said, he's had some moments today, but I don't know. He's got to do better there with Callum Wilson, hasn't he? Callum Wilson it's decent striker play, but Murillo looks bad there, doesn't he?
Yeah, and peeled off the man, easy header. Just fell apart. We fell apart. And obviously, maybe Murillo's head had dropped a little bit, because he gave away that ball for the penalty as well to Somerville. So maybe his head had dropped a little bit at that point, and he was disappointed. So, yeah, no, not good enough. There was moments early in the first half I thought Murillo looked really calm and good on the ball, but then, I think once we saw it against Everton, he was on the ball. I know it was a mistake, and they took the ball off him and they went down the other end, and I was at that game. We lost 1-0. It's just those moments late in games. You got to stay tight. You got to have that experience, and you just can't let your man peel away from you like that. And just disappointing. And I think the big thing is there, like, why are we conceding a goal, which was a good finish from Bowen, and then completely falling apart? Like, Murillo and Milenkovic are two of the best defenders in the league last year. So at the back end of the game, they shouldn't be. Murillo certainly shouldn't be falling apart the way he did, unfortunately. So yeah, really disappointing end of the game for him. Like, he's still a class player, and I love him, but like today at that back end, terrible. And that ball, like, I know he was under pressure, but that ball for the penalty, I mean, it's just dreadful. Like, what are you doing? Like, just awful. And you knew he was going to go in and goal. And then you've Sangare, of all people, trying to chase him down. So you just know he's going to give away a penalty. It's just a disaster back end of the game. And yeah, Murillo had a bad last 10 minutes, which is unfortunate.
I suppose it's one we will forget over the course of a season, because the game had gone at 3-0, but it was, pretty disappointing. I mean, I was struck in the ground. This isn't really for discussion, but it was really empty at full time, like 50% full at some. I would say, I don't judge people. They paid their money. They paid a lot of money. If they want to go, that's fine, because they probably would have booed the players off. I was just struck by how empty the ground was, how quiet people were. It just shows. I think we've been pretty patient as fans. We have bad performances. It was just how bad it was today, I would say, was the scale of it, certainly. we'll talk about the transfer window next. But Dillon, anything you want to add on the game? Any other points you want to make?
No, not really. I mean, look, hopefully it's a blip. I mean, the only thing I was sort of thinking about was just kind of how, in terms of bedding in these new players, kind of it's a big call for Nuno to make, kind of who to stick with and who to bring in. Wood, like I think as has been said, wasn't amazing today. He didn't have loads to feed off, but he wasn't really there. Do we sort of remain loyal to him because he was so excellent last season, or do you say we've got Calimundo or Jesus or whoever, and give them a run? And it's kind of that thing of like, all of these players that we've got as potentially really exciting bench options, all of them are going to need time to bed in, and are they going to get that time, and how's it going to work with Europe? And I don't know, there's big calls to be made, basically, because based off today, you could have the international break, you could have a really good training session with those players that are still with us, and then make some potentially big calls for the next game without wanting to kind of catastrophize and overhaul the whole thing. Or we could say, look, it's a blip, we didn't handle that very well, we're going to go unchanged, and everyone is just going to like build that chemistry slowly. But yeah, so some big calls to make, I think, in terms of do we stick or do we twist with some of the players who were, people like Chris Wood, who were, red hot last season, but also kind of our only viable option at times, right? That's not the case anymore. And it'll be interesting to see whether Calimundo or someone like that gets a start in the coming weeks, I guess.
He's still my starting number 9, certainly for the next 4 or 5 games. He's Nuno's starting number 9. The question is if a different manager comes in, I guess, because the attack's built for Chris Wood, and if he doesn't get service, then he doesn't offer as much as maybe a Calimundo would or an Igor Jesus. But yeah, for me, certainly until he looks like he needs a rest, I think Nuno will pick him. I would say. I'll pose one at you then, Chris, from Stuart. Stuart, thank you very much for £5, by the way. Appreciate that. Do you think the performance has anything to do with what's happening to Nuno, Chris? Either, I don't know if that's aimed at the players distracted by it, or Nuno, muddle thinking, or not. Do you think there's anything in what Stuart asks there or not?
I don't actually, no. I think that if that was the case, we would have seen a poor performance last week at Palace, because that was just after it happened, and we didn't. We saw a pretty good performance. Okay, there was first half last week, which wasn't great, but the second half was a really good performance. We nearly won the game. I think this is more complacency, expectations. That's why you mentioned to me, Matt, about fans leaving, right? Like I wouldn't leave, but I understand why fans leave if you're conceding 3 goals, at the back end of a game, because you've expectations to go into this game to win. So the expectations have changed, and that might have got into the players, and that might be why there's some complacency there. They were very complacent on the ball today. Very, very, very complacent. I think they expected to go in, have a nice, easy game. West Ham are on a bit of a downer, nick a goal early, sit behind it, counter, and win the game. And we didn't do that at all. So for me, it's not about the Nuno situation going on in the background, I don't think, unless there's something I don't know about, because they played well last week. Maybe it's that Europa League draw on Friday, which I absolutely love. The players sitting there and watching, that's great. But like, they've got to have their heads screwed on when they're playing West Ham on a Sunday, because the Premier League is your bread and butter. So for me, it's about complacency, and expectation has risen now. So you have to put those games away. If you're a top 7 team and you want to be top 7 again, and you're playing in the Europa League, you've got to beat a West Ham team who are wounded, absolutely wounded. Paqueta said he was leaving at some point as well. He might be going to Villa. One of the other players isn't playing. Was it Aguirre? He didn't even show up. So you've got to put those teams away. And that comes down to complacency for me today, from everyone, and maybe complacency from Nuno as well. But I don't think it's anything to do with what was said the week before.
I think also, sorry, just to chime in quickly, I think you already said it, Chris, but we were toothless that first half. They were toothless as well. They were really poor. Like I couldn't believe how many times they just booted the ball out of play. Like that was a lot of what I wrote in my notes. Like 3, 4, 5 times it would just be straight out, and I'd be thinking like, okay, we're not really showing that much. But West Ham aren't really in this at all until, they were gifted that kind of one chance, was it the deflection or whatever it was. But they did not really look like turning us over at all. And then we just totally collapsed once, that good finish from Bowen. That's what's kind of concerning. But they were not a good side, that we were up against at all by any stretch.
The chat's debating whether people should leave early or not. What's the culture in the States, Chief, for staying till the end of sports or not?
It's probably pretty similar. I think you would have seen a mass exodus in the United States for a performance like that too. At the end, you got to be parking, got to get to the nav. I don't really necessarily blame people for leaving 10 minutes early when that game was done, because that one goal made it feel like that goal by Bowen could have been worth 10. Like that one goal felt insurmountable for that team today. It's not like that Villa game last year where it's like the effort was there, they're going for it. There was no energy. So I don't blame the fans for going. I think the culture on leaving early is probably pretty similar.
Yeah, first goal is massive for us.
Yeah.
Although we did come back against Palace, when we showed more energy. So yeah, you're certainly right there. Anything you want to add on the game, Chief? Marinakis did leave at 2-0, I think. Yeah, not looking best pleased.
Anything you want to add TV on the way out this time?
Not this time.
No,
I think the supplies run dry. Anything else you want to add on the game, Chief?
Well, it's one of those games where you guys were talking about the first half, where I'm kind of like a Forest evangelist here in the United States. I hope nobody watched that first half. If you're new to the game, I hope you did not have that as your introduction, because it was so bad to watch. My eyes were hurting watching it. They should be embarrassed with that performance today. Like felt like nobody was up for it. So, nothing else really on the game. It stinks that they have to sit on this game now for 2 weeks, because you almost want to just get right back out there. And now it's like you have to wait around for 2 weeks with this international break, and your prize for coming back is Arsenal. So it's not exactly a great situation, but maybe this will, light a fire under them, and this is like an early season wake-up call that, hey, we can't just, throw our cleats on and go for a jog and expect 3 points. Like, you got to show up. This is the Prem. It's the most competitive league in the world. You got to show up ready to play every week.
Yeah, I think the timing in many ways is absolutely horrific, because we have to stew on it. Like you say, half our squad disappears. The only good thing I can think is the other half, who might potentially start, like a Louise, like a Callum Wendo. Those guys have now got 2 weeks of Nuno training to really drill this system that I'm sure he'll play when we go to Arsenal, like we did at Anfield. Maybe not personnel, but we have to be hard to break lines, hard to break down. So maybe that's a benefit, but otherwise it's absolutely honking timing for me. Chris, what do you want to see happen tomorrow, but before 7 p.m?
Tomorrow before 7 p.m.
As in the transfer dedeadline.
Yeah. Sorry, I was like, are you asking me? Do I want the manager to go? No. Tomorrow before 7 p.m. No, I'd like to see. Yeah, I'd like to see a winger. I think that we have Hutchinson and Doy and Callum Hudson and Doy. I'd like to see a pacey winger come in. Other than that, we're almost there. We got the two fullbacks. We've got the other goalkeeper, and we've got another goalkeeper on the way. Kubano's coming in as left back now. The rest of the pieces have fallen into place. And I was saying the same thing 2 weeks ago, and I was happier saying it. So I'm not going to change my mind because of a terrible game today. I think the transfer window has been slow, but it's been good at the back end, and they've done a really good job to get these deals over the line. Now we've got an international break. As you said, it's poor timing in terms of the fact that we've to stew, but it's good timing in terms of the fact that we give time for these newer players to bet in who aren't going away to play with their country. So, yeah, look, I just want to see a winger. I want to see a winger come in tomorrow. Not a 30 mil winger. I want us to try and just stay within that PSR threshold if we can, because we might need the money. I would like a winger to come in tomorrow for sure, and a quick winger, someone with a different profile to Hudson-Odoi or Ndoye or Hutchinson, someone really, really pacey.
Yeah, current net spend, I keep sliding off the edge of the screen almost. Current net spend is about 60 million quid, I think. So I don't know how much is left in the pot before you have to start worrying about what happens in, before June the 30th and with accounting windows and all that. But Chief, what would you like to happen?
Well, I mean, if 60 million is still in the pocket, we'll get Alanga back. I guess I feel like that's what they need. I do think they need a burner, a guy who runs, 100 meters in 10 seconds. We need like an Olympic speed. If you are going to have that counterattacking set up, especially against Arsenal, somebody has to be able to run down those long balls. So that I'm with Chris on that. I'd like to see, a blinding fast winger.
I think we'll see John Victor sign, the Botafogo keeper, and Cuiabano.
That's kind of a weird one, right? Because he was rumored with the other two guys from Botafogo, and then that collapsed and went away, and then we didn't hear his name again for felt like 6 weeks or 2 months, and then all of a sudden he's the left back again.
Brighton got involved, didn't they? Brighton.
Yeah. I wonder what the pecking order was. Like, I think there was True Fair. Was Koyabano high in the pecking order, then said no, so we looked elsewhere, and now we'll come back in for him? I don't know. He's going to sign anyway, and he can play left back or left wing. So, and he is more. His numbers look better as an attacking player more than a defensive player. So we need to see how he's used. That might be it. I don't know. It seems like we're in for a big winger signing. We keep getting linked with these names like Bakwa, the lad at Seville, whose name escapes me, who's a good player for the Belgian winger. So maybe that'll happen. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if a fairly big name goes. I mean, I think like Taiwo, Jota, guys like that might go, but I don't know. It'd be really late in the window, but there was that Sangare talk last week. I hope it's not resurrected. I know we've talked about Sangare, but I hope we don't make any big sales, but we shall see. I'll tell people about our coverage of that in 1 second, but Dillon, any hopes and fears for you tomorrow?
No panic buys would be one thing. I don't want to see a Divock Origi or anything like that come in. I think I agree that, like, despite today's absolute shocker, the window has been really positive as a whole. So yeah, I'd agree what been said about the winger. Koyabano is interesting. Aside from the fact that it feels like he maybe wasn't number one, or it's not clear how that move has kind of materialized. I mean, I'm sort of wondering whether the fact that he can play as a winger is being sort of viewed as a positive, and that between covering on the wing, covering on left back, he'll be getting sort of game time either way. But yeah, he's an interesting one. But yeah, I'd like to see sort of level heads, no kind of Origis coming in. And yeah, I think we probably do need to, if we're going to bring a winger in, I think we probably do need to shift a Taiwo or a Jota as a minimum, right? Because there's just not going to be space in the squad. So I don't want to see kind of a big curveball exit necessarily, but I think Taiwo probably needs a loan. I think maybe Zach Abbott needs a loan as well. I mean, just because he's at that age where he needs to play, right? And it's nice having this role where with this tradition of having a homegrown player on the bench and all of that, but it should be what's best for him. And today, I mean, Jaya Cunha wasn't even in the squad, right? So where's Abbott in that pecking order? I don't know. I mean, it's odd that Morata has been linked with a move away. He's on the bench today. Cunha's not there. Abbott's not there. So yeah, that those are the things I'm kind of tossing around personally. But it's Forest. Hopefully it's an exciting day. It can be fun when it's all kicking off in the moment. But yeah, I'd just like it to be no panic buys, really.
Well, talking of panic buys, Emmanuel Dennis has had his contract cancelled. He was a proper panic buy after that first game in the Premier League. So he's gone. Looks like he's going to Italy. Some positive news, Chris. We'll just touch on this briefly. But Callum Hudson-Odoi signing a new contract in the longer term could end up being one of our biggest signings. I was really worried he was going to go. So that is, we'll try and end on one positive note, but that's something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a big deal. He's been very good for us since he's come in. He was really, really good at the first half of last year, and the second half was sort of the Elanga show. But yeah, it's great. Hudson-Odoi is a really good technical player. He's creative. I saw him drop into the middle a couple of times today, and he did so in a couple of the preseason games where he looked good as well. Yeah, I'm delighted. Absolutely delighted for Hudson-Odoi. That's a massive positive. You know what I mean? Like, today is just, we feel the way we feel because the result and the performance today was a shambles. But over the course of the season, hopefully it'll bear out and we'll be all right. And Hudson-Odoi is a part of that. And to have him sign a contract in the last year of his contract is a big deal. And we had loads of players now this summer sign the new contracts, Aina, obviously Gibbs White. So it's really good to see Hudson-Odoi tied down again, and you're kind of keeping that group together. His chief always says to me, he says, I want to keep this group together. So like keeping that kind of group together is a good thing, keeping that dressing room tightness, even if something happens, God forbid, change of the manager or whatever, you keep that group together and you still have that togetherness through the tough times as well,
Yeah, I hope Nuno, I'm talking of panics, I hope Nuno doesn't go tonight. I hope he's still manager come the Arsenal game. I do worry longer term, will he be manager at Christmas after it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle when you said what you said in the press, but we shall see. 600 people with us almost, which is great. Do us a favour and hit like just before we go. Chief, final thoughts? Anything you want to add?
600 masochists live. More Forest content today. No, overall, I believe in this group. I believe in Nuno. I think they have more talent, obviously, than they've ever had. So I think they'll right the ship. But that was ugly today. But I think this is hopefully you bury the ball and you come back from this international break kind of ready to go, and maybe pie in the sky, glass half full kind of thing, where it's like Arsenal allows you to get back to what your identity was. Like, you're not going to be a possession game. So you have a little bit of familiarity. You play up to that level. They always seem like they play the big teams well, and hopefully get a result. And then like Chris was saying, it's Sunderland and Burnley, and you just keep kind of stacking points, and we'll hopefully forget about this game in time.
Yeah, the next game changes the narrative every time massively. It's just a pain in the arse that it's 2 weeks away, and like you said, Chief, we have to wait and hopefully watch Elliot Anderson make his England debut at least. Dillon, anything from you? Final thoughts before we depart?
No, I agree with what Chief said. Really, I say this as much as a reminder to myself, because I'm feeling as frustrated as anyone. But ultimately, it's the best squad I've seen in my lifetime as a fan. European stuff is really exciting. I back the players. I back Nuno. I hope they can sort that out. I back us to come back from this. And yeah, Arsenal, I mean, we've had a bad run of it at their place, haven't we? So we're sort of due for that to turn. So look, hopefully calm heads prevail. We get, he gets a good couple of weeks with the players, and then we can turn it around. And
Saliba went off today too. So
he did early on, didn't he? Yeah.
Saka will be out as well. Saka should be out.
Right, yeah.
So again, supposedly playing teams at the right time. So if Forest luck continues here, maybe that's a get right game. We're all feeling, charging up the table, looking at Champions League again after the Arsenal game.
Yeah, we turn the narrative around, and they've lost to Liverpool today, so their heads are down. They're going to fold. All that.
Arteta out.
Right,
I think that's everything. Did I give you final word, Chris, or not?
No, but I was going to take it anyway, because I just want to say, sorry, no, but I just. No, sorry. I mean, after a terrible day like today, maybe I shouldn't say anything. But look, 2 days ago, I was sat in my office watching a live stream of the Europa League draw, right? And I know today was a dreadful day, right? But 2 days ago, I was watching the live stream, and I almost got emotional at the intro, which is really sad. But I did. There was a bit of an intro, not the magician thing, the intro of all the old games being clipped up and shown in the past, the old UEFA Cup and all that. And I've talked to a lot of people. I only started supporting Forest in 1996. I talked to a lot of people who were at European games, who supported Forest in the late 70s and the 80s, friends, family, people, community who've been to the games, and they talk about it. Like, it kind of feels like we belong there. And I know that other teams are going into Europe for the first time, but it actually does feel like we belong there. People talk about history a lot. Man United still talk about their treble. That was 26 years ago. So our European Cups aren't ancient history. They're history. And we're going back to where we belong. And that's a massive, massive thing for us. So when everyone's booking their flights to Seville or Braga or Utrecht, I've already booked my flights. I'm not even going to be able to get tickets, but I'm just going for the experience. I think it's a huge thing for this club. So even though we got turned over today and it was a dreadful performance, we have to remember we're going back to where we belong, and we're going back to Europe, and history hopefully will repeat ourselves, because I think we're going all the way. We're trying to go and win this trophy. We're not just going there to make up the numbers, So that's my final word.
Good man. I've booked my week in Seville as well. I've got no idea if I'll get to the game, but taking my wife and making a week of it, certainly. Where are you going, Chris? Braga and Utrecht?
Yeah, so I'm going to Braga because my missus booked it because she just wants to go to Porto, which is near there. So I'm just going to go around that area. Utrecht, I booked anyway. I just booked a hotel in Utrecht and a trip to Amsterdam for 3 days. And I know that I'm not going to get away tickets.
Is that with your wife?
No, that's not with my wife.
Well, what are you going to do there?
It doesn't matter. Anyway, well, the funny thing is I was in Amsterdam with my wife last year and Seville last year with my wife. Seville's lovely. So I just couldn't do Seville this year because it's too expensive. The flights were too expensive from Ireland. But yeah, no, I booked Utrecht, and I'm going to go, and I'll hang out in a pub around the corner if I have to, or I'll sit in the home end if I can get a home ticket. I don't care. I'll do whatever I can. So yeah, I think it's just important to remember that, like, where this is going to be it should be one of the most fun seasons of our Forest lives from any of the fans. Do you know what I mean? So we should try and enjoy it, even if we get turned over by a poor West Ham today.
Yeah, live Forest Focus in Braga in January. I'll see everybody there.
Yeah. Well, okay. 2 questions, Chief. First question is: are you going to go to? Are you going to make it to any of these European games? Second question from Chapo: are you drinking moonshine out of that jar?
This is water. I'm hydrating. I had a bit of a night with the boys last night, so watching that game was at 8 a.m. was even harder than it should have been. But I'm gonna try. The only one with my schedule that would work would be the Braga game in January. So I was looking at Airbnbs, and it looks like a lovely town. So I'm gonna try to get over it. And the flights, flying to New York City from Chicago right now is going to run you like $700. I looked up flights for Braga. It was like $250. So somehow flying international is significantly cheaper than flying domestically. So I am going to try to do that. We'll see. A lot of it's contingent upon the Bears. I'm guessing they'll be long gone by the time there won't be a conflict, because the Bears are probably going to be horrible again. But yeah, I'm hoping for the Portugal game in January.
Dillon, are you going to make one or not, do you think?
I am desperate to go. I mean, but my sort of Forest fan community is basically this virtual room that we're in. I mean, I think that's the thing. I'm like, oh, I could go and experience it, but like, what does that mean? Does it mean sort of me kind of wandering into a bar, sitting on my own, being like, oh, great, it's like a lot. I don't know. Like, I will try and go to one of them, and I would chop my arm off for a ticket, but I'm not booking anything just yet to hard commit, and I don't think there's no way that my girlfriend would come with me, and I don't know if I'd want her to be fair. I don't know what I'd be able to.
I'll clip that up and send it to her.
There's nothing in it for her either. So yeah, look, I would really love to get to one of them, but I'm wary about sort of over romanticizing really, living and breathing the experience and the reality of what that could be. But I speak Spanish.
Well, it's going to happen
so
every year now. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, get it next year.
Yeah. Oh, you speak Spanish as well?
I do. Yeah, and I speak a bit of Portuguese too. So anyone in the chat, anyone wants a guide, a ticket?
There you go. Well, Luke says you're never on your own. He'll buy you a beer in Braga. So there you go.
Love that.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll take you up on that, mate.
Right. Well, hopefully people found that somewhat cathartic, and we all feel slightly better now after the last hour.
I'm in a better mood now.
Well, we talked about trips to Europe and all that stuff, so it can't be worse. Hopefully, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider a membership or Patreon. I don't know what's happening with the videos today; they're just not showing up. There you go, almost gone. Thank you. Maybe it was showing up for you guys. It wasn't showing up for me anyway. Hit like, hit subscribe, all the usual stuff. Help us out. Appreciate people's company. Appreciate your company, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And yeah, we're here for the good times and the bad times. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, 3-1 Brentford, great performance, all happy. And then 2 weeks later, Nuno said a couple of things and we're losing 3-0 to West Ham. So look, the ups and the downs of football, but thanks for having me, and great to be on with Dillon finally and have a chat with him and Chief as well as always. So yeah, thank you.
Simon's still depressed. Sorry, Simon. We tried. I think everyone is really. Richard Spray, thank you very much for the $5. Appreciate that. As ever, you've been watching it in the States as well. Chief, great commitment, getting up at 8 a.m. Horrifically hungover, I assume. So yeah, Chief, thank you very much.
I'm always thrilled to be here. So thanks for having me.
Dillon, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be on this. Like, great, Chris, great to be on with you. Like, same with you, Chief. Always look forward to when you guys are on. So yeah, and it's just great to have anyone to talk to about Forest from my solitary outpost in London. So yeah, thanks, Matt, and onwards and upwards, hopefully.
Onwards and upwards, a good note to end on. Thanks very much, everyone. We shall be back tomorrow, maybe at lunchtime, certainly 5 p.m. till 7 p.m., where we'll do transfer stuff. We'll reflect on this game a bit more. Lewis is going to join us for both hours. Pete, Greg, and Mikey should be with us. It's actually civil war in the chat tonight, I think, between Pete, Greg, and Mikey over all this. So I'll see how they are tomorrow. It could be interesting. So join us for that, 5 p.m. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and we shall see you soon.